Hi guys and welcome back to another DrAce video, and today we're going to be playing MotoGP 24. It is now time for our chance to recap the French GP, and we're going to do that here today in a 100% race with Jorge Martin right here in Le Mans. So here we go, then we're going to try and replicate Jorge Martin's performance from the French GP. We'll wait for the red lights to disappear from pole position, and away we go. Not a bad start, but in fact that was a bad start. We're dropping positions, unlike Marquez, who's already up to second place. There goes the 3-time world champion around the outside of him, and then Enea Bastianini a little bit loose into turn 2 and turn 3, and then into the right hand of a turn 4. It looks to be Pecco Bagnaia with the advantage, Bastianini in second, and myself, Jorge Martin, in third place. So this is pretty much what I was hoping for. The Ducatis duking it out at the front here in Le Mans. So of course, as I've already mentioned, you may have missed it, this is going to be a 100% race distance, as Jack Miller's just been given a long lap penalty for some sort of collision. I've seen the two VR46 Ducatis in there somewhere, so I think Miller must have taken one of them out of the French GP. Now of course, we will do a little bit of a recap here today from the French GP at the weekend here in Le Mans. It was pretty much an awesome weekend, from Moto E to Moto 3 to Moto 2, and of course the premier class of MotoGP. I'm not going to spend too much time speaking about the other classes, but all I will say is for Moto 3 it was probably the best race of Moto 3. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I think it might have been the best race out of all of them. I know everyone enjoyed the battle at the front, if you can call it a battle, in Le Mans, in the Premier class, but I must confess I really enjoyed the Moto3 race, the chopping and changing, battling for positions, long lap penalties, and then everything else. It was great, really fun. Moto2 was pretty good and pretty exciting, which is not often you can say that, so I'm happy to mention that here in today's Le Mans recap video. So, ahead of us is Pecco Bagnaia, and I won't lie to you, this is looking a bit too much like the weekend race. So unless we get past Pecco, there's a very chance he could just disappear away from us and start churning out the lap times. I don't want that to happen. I want myself and Martin to catch up to the 3-time world champion. But let's get into the debate then, shall we? Let's start talking about the actual recap. We've got plenty of laps to discuss, so this is what we're going to do. Now, of course, we're going to discuss as well the Ducati dilemma, let's say. The idea of signing a new factory Ducati rider, or possibly keeping their factory rider alongside Francesco Bagnaia. Now, of course, it makes it very easy when you have a rider like Jorge Martin, who's done the triple here in a circuit like Le Mans. A little bit wide there. I'm going to have to go off the circuit there. Goodness me, I was way off the corner there. There's no way I was going to be able to turn it in going into Shimano Buff after making that mistake. So unfortunately, I did take to the escape route. Same place Aleix Espargaro got forced down. And I am now a second behind Pecco Bagnaia. Now, of course, regarding Aleix Espargaro and Enea Bastianini, I think the move was one of those ones where he got sucked into it, so he basically had to just commit. But it's a damn shame that Enea Bastianini then cut the apex for turn 10 and didn't reduce enough time. Something we'll discuss later on, but let's talk about the Ducati trio candidates. I was hoping by the end of this weekend we would be thinking about a 4th Ducati contestant, and in that form it would have been Marco Bezzecchi, but unfortunately 2 crashes, one in the sprint in Shimano Buff and the second crash in this very corner, La Chapelle. I can't argue that Marco Bezzecchi needs a factory Ducati seat now. I was hoping that would happen, as is a little bit of a favourite for mine. I've got a very much soft spot for Marco Bezzecchi. I really can't think that that's going to be offered to him anytime soon with a performance like this in the French GP. So let's think about it for a moment then. Jorge Martin, he is on fire, leading the World Championship now by 30 plus points if I'm not mistaken, looking quite impervious, and to be honest, he barely made a foot wrong this weekend. Of course, he crashed in qualifying, that did cost him a bit of time, but still took a terrific lap time, brand new lap record, and of course a pole position to boot as well. Sprint race didn't look like anyone would come close to Jorge Martin, and they didn't. And even in the race, to be honest with you, after following Bagnaia for so long, my anticipation would be that Jorge would go for a lunge, Pecco would respond, which he did, into the Dunlop chicane, and then that would be it for a while. And it was until Martin decided to get a bit more audacious, chuck a few more lunges in at Pecco. Pecco tries to respond, and then next thing you know, Martin is on the stronger foot, and it's time for Pecco to be the hunter rather than the hunted. But I will confess, my money was on Pecco Bagnaia throughout that entire race. Oh, he's gone deep there for LaChapelle, though. We're going to sneak through now into turn 6. Thank you very much, Pecco. Just when I was talking about the world champion, I really felt that Pecco would just again prove why he's the best rider in MotoGP and prove why he's the best Ducati rider. Now, I know that a lot of you will disagree with that, and some of you may be shaking your heads already, but he is the man with the number 1 on his plate. And it's the only man in MotoGP right now to hold that number 1 plate for 2 seasons. So you can't tell me that that is not a worthy comment. But you have to take a look at the man on our screen right now. The man in purple, the man with the Red Bull, the man with the Alpine stars, the Martinator, Jorge Martin, is looking to be an absolute shoo-in for Ducati for me. I personally, my side of the things, I don't see why there needs to be a replacement for Enea Bastianini. I don't think Enea Bastianini is employed to push Pecco Bagnaia to the limit and make his life difficult. I'm sure Ducati would like to guarantee an Italian champion. Not guaranteed, of course, but that's my initial feeling, is they're very proud to have Italian motorcycles with Italian riders. It's the Italian dream to have that, of course. But there's no saying that that's exactly what's going to happen. I strongly feel that it would make more sense to have a rider like Bastianini who is going to support Bagnaia, a bit like what Jack Miller did, rather than having 2 titans, 2 juggernauts clashing in the factory team. But I could foresee it happening if we get Jorge Martin and Pecco Bagnaia to team up for the first time since their Mahindra days. I don't see that being a good option for Ducati, for Davide Tardozzi's heart rate, and for Gigi Dall'Igna's goatee. I think a lot of that will come to fruition quickly with the amount of drama that those 2 would make and create within that team. Now, of course, there's an other entity, a certain alien of MotoGP that somehow has got himself back up to the podium positions from 13th place, both in the sprint and the race. The man's a menace. It's Marc Marquez, and he wants to say, by the way, I would also like a factory Ducati seat. Just stirring the pot and making this a dilemma, albeit a very pleasant dilemma, because let's be honest, if you're the factory Ducati team, you have 3 options, each one of them being a world champion. One of them is a multiple MotoGP world champion, so of course Marquez does win in the sense of history, but all 3 of them are world champions in their own right, from Moto3 to Moto2 to now MotoGP. That is a pleasant dilemma, because either way, you've got a cracking rider on your hand. Even if Gigi Dall'Igna, Claudio Di Michele and all of them just suddenly say, you know what, I can't be bothered, let's just keep Bastianini, that's still an absolutely brilliant choice. But since Marquez has put his name into the hat, you certainly have to have a look at the 8 times world champion. Now, I have read a comment numerous times now on social media, which is kind of annoying, but I get the premise. There isn't a party without Marc Marquez. I've seen it and I've heard it, and I disagree with that, because personally, I'm a huge MotoGP fan. It doesn't matter to me if Marquez is there, doesn't matter to me if Valentino Rossi's there, doesn't matter to me if Jaco Agostini suddenly resuited and got back on the motorcycle ready to fight these modern day motorcycles. Doesn't matter to me, MotoGP is terrific, all the riders are talented, but, oh my god, I just downshifted a bit too early there, whoops. But speaking of Marc Marquez, the fans adore Marquez. He is the most popular rider in MotoGP as Pecco goes for a lunge there. Quickly get it back into the blue S's. Nicely done. Into turn 12, we have the lead again. But Marc Marquez, he is the man who will put bums in seats for Grand Prix racing. Doesn't matter what country, doesn't matter what circumstances or track conditions or rainy conditions or weather conditions, Marquez is going to put fans in seats. A lot of people want to see him win, and a lot of people want to see him crash. Marquez is guaranteed box office in a factory Ducati seat for that reason. It helps Ducati because it grows the product. There's people who's going to be buying the merchandise. But it doesn't help your main world champion. Having a rider like Marquez or Martin does not keep your favourite rider happy. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think this should be monopolised behind Pecco. It shouldn't just be Pecco and we love Pecco and everything else is Pecco, but nothing else is Pecco. No. It should still be about the main product and about the racing itself, but you have to think logically about keeping your rider who's been able to win 2 MotoGP World Championships, the only man to defend the number 1 since Mick Doohan. He's an incredible talent. Do you really want to, upset him? I don't know, but it's a very difficult decision because also at the same time you got to look and say, well, if we put Marquez in there, then it's almost guaranteed a championship. We put Jorge Martin, it's almost guaranteed a championship. Do you even need Pecco a year after or 2 years after? I don't know. I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm trying to give as many different thoughts and process and feedback throughout this entire Ducati dilemma. But the whole point of this conversation is this weekend it made Gigi Dell'Igna's and Ducati's job easier, yet significantly harder. The only person who should be the favourite of that seat right now is the man on screen. That's absolutely not a disrespect to Marc Marquez, but this is the man who won. This is the man who dominated the sprint. This is the man who dominated the qualifying and practice. Pecco Bagnaia is not competing against Martin right now. Martin is well up there. We are only 5 rounds in, so I'm not going to get too excited. But the point is that this man has delivered in every promise so far this season. He wants a factory Ducati seat or a factory seat elsewhere. Simple as to Martin. Ultimatum. And I think because of that ultimatum, he's riding at the absolute best he can be right now. Because he's made his decision clear. Doesn't matter to him if he goes to Ducati on the factory team or goes to another factory team. But I really think that this weekend has made it easier to pick Martin over anyone else. You have to look at Marc Marquez qualifying in 13th. Not a good look for Marquez. Missing out on Q2 is not what you'd expect for the Spaniard. But if he spent less time faffing around chasing an Air Bastianini and finding a toe, then he would have been in Q2 automatically, would have finished higher up in Q2, and possibly would have even beaten Jorge Martin. Who knows? But all I can say is I absolutely hate the towing idea from Marc. He's way too good to be doing that now. He's got the best bike on the grid. You don't need to start faffing around following riders in qualifying. Come on, Marc. You're better than that. You're an 8 times world champion, for goodness sake. He'll far surpass anyone in modern day era right now, because I don't think anyone else has got that magnitude and ability above the rest to win 8 world championships. We'll see, but right now I don't really foresee it happening. But I'm off into a tangent here because I've got so much to talk about at once, and I'm trying to get through this one whilst trying to crack on with the racing. But basically, I really don't know what the decision should be for Ducati. I think this weekend was terrific. It was a good fight at the front. I'm a little bit disappointed that Marquez went so early because I was really hoping Pecco would build something for the final corners. But unfortunately, Marquez's party spoiled the party because we didn't get the overtake at the last lap. He went early, he went Shimano buff. Both riders went a bit wide. Martin secured the victory. I was really hoping for the 3 of them battling it out into Recordamon. Joe Roberts and Alonso Lopez style together. Would have been awesome, but unfortunately I have to wait another day for that to come in fruition in time, and hopefully it will come to fruition in the future. But last bit of thought before we move on from this situation, because I could talk about this all day. I love the ideas and the scenarios that's approaching, and it doesn't matter. It's just it's a bit of debate, isn't it? Of course, and I don't know anything more than what you guys do. I just like to debate these sort of things. But I will say, if I was in charge, I wouldn't change from an Air Bastianini, quite honest with you. And the only change I would make if it was an Air Bastianini is that I would put him on the satellite Ducati. I wouldn't want to lose the beast. I really would not want to lose an Air Bastianini. And the worst thing is that it's better to know your enemy. And what I mean by that is if you have finished with an Air Bastianini and you don't think he's as good as the likes of Marquez and Martin, and you don't think he deserves that factory Ducati seat, you absolutely know he's going to go to another team and he's going to make your life hell. He was on that Gresini Ducati with no trouble in a GP22, fighting with Pecco Bagnaia every single opportunity that arose, as Pecco Bagnaia has actually got past me here into Shimano Buff. I need to fight back. It's hard for me to talk as it is when racing, but if I can guarantee the spot back, I absolutely will. Oh, Pecco's got a long lap penalty. Did I just push him off the track then? I think I might have done. Oh, look at that Pecco up on the inside. Oh, if I was Maverick Vinales, we would have collided. Goodness me. Oh, I'm a bit deep there for turn 13. I don't like this. I don't like this anymore. Oh, contact. Steady on, Pecco. I'm never going to get to finish my conversation here. Oh, I've dropped into the 130s as well. That's not good. Well, we'll see what he does with the penalty, but getting back to the beast, something else I want to mention here is it's not going to be nice for the Marquez fans, to be honest with you, but I feel it needs to be said because Marquez is an incredible talent, but I feel that people are making excuses for Marquez, and I don't understand why. He's an incredible rider. We don't need this excuses part. But anyway, basically what I'm trying to say is, I keep hearing about how Marquez is on a GP23 bike, which is inferior to the GP24, and therefore he would do so much more with a GP24. Quite honest with you, I don't understand that, because Marquez himself, and I've heard it before, and I said it from the beginning of the season, that it's not that much different to the GP24. So this is coming up again, this excuse of, oh, well, Marquez would have won if it was a GP24. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, he's got the GP23. He went from 13th to 2nd. What more do you want as I go off the circuit there? Apologies. What more would you want from this man? He is absolutely delivered and then some on that Gresini Ducati. There's not been this much hype about the Gresini Ducati since Digia won, or since Enea Bastianini won. Gresini is just loving life right now. They've got some great riders in Moto 2 as well. In Moto E, they're not so bad, but at the end of the day, they're absolutely fine. And there's nothing wrong with that GP23. Marco Bezzecchi's finished on the podium. Marquez has done it. And a couple of riders now, Digia, Alex Marquez getting that feel. Alex Marquez had a cracking sprint in Jerez. Also had a good race as well, but very much overshadowed by his older brother by a year. So at the end of the day, I don't think that excuse needs to be given anymore. Marquez is incredible talent. The GP23 is not significantly different from GP24. Marquez said it himself. So that excuse has got to go. We should just be very positive and pleased with the performance of the number 93. He has done brilliantly. Absolutely amazing. I thought he'd struggle this weekend in Le Mans, I really did. Egg on my face, clearly. He proved me wrong. He's done so well this weekend, did the 8 times world champion. But yeah, so my thought process is, keep Enea, let Martin and Marquez fight to the death. I'm sitting on the fence though. I'm not making a decision, but I guess that's what I would probably do. But let me know in the comment section down below. I really want to know what you guys want to say. I'm curious to hear. Hopefully we don't get just Marquez fan base bias, because I am seeing a lot of that at the moment, which I don't think is fair. I seen a Marquez fan in social media a few days ago imploring Ducati to completely remove Pecco now, cut his contract up, and get Martin and Marquez in that factory Ducati team. That's wild, but it's an opinion, and they can't be wrong if it's an opinion, so why not let it fly? But anyway, let's take a look at the other riders then and have a bit of a conversation about that, because I am cautious of the fact that I've spent so long chatting about the Ducati dilemma, but it's right there in the tips of the tongues and everyone's talking about it. It's exciting. It's setting up the precedents of the next season. Once we get all that sorted, we can focus on this season, I guess. But yeah, anyway, moving on. So a couple of days ago, I had this memory of a certain Pedro Acosta crashing in La Chapelle. Last year, was it, on the Moto2 bike with the Red Bull KTM colours? I'm sure he crashed in La Chapelle, and for some strange reason it came to me during the race at the weekend. And he didn't crash into La Chapelle, I'll be honest with you. He actually went down into Garage Vert, and how he didn't collect both Digia and Aleix Espargaro was absolutely astonishing. But I can't help to just mention that, because it was so weird that I was thinking about that crash and it happened. Now, the craziest thing is that I also seen on Instagram bad MotoGP memes posted about Pedro Acosta's crashing in Le Mans and then winning in Mugello. So I also had that weird thought in my head as well, that maybe next time he's going to come out and absolutely dominate. And I'm really excited at that thought because, of course, having a rookie do incredible things is always the best thing ever because it's exciting. It's unheard of and you don't expect it. So I'm actually really curious to see what happens to Pedro Acosta, but this weekend I thought would go a lot better for Pedro than it did. I had, of course, that little bit of a nagging doubt that he might crash crash into La Chapelle again, but he went 2 corners after and crashed in Garage Vert, which seemed strange. It really did. It didn't seem like he was doing too much wrong. Probably a little bit greedy on the overtake and the fight back against Digia, but unfortunately for him, he did crash, and that cost him his chance of finishing in the race and all of them in the Grand Prix. So it's a damn shame that, but to be fair, Pedro did very well all weekend in the sense of building up to a decent result, but unfortunately just didn't materialise, and sometimes that happens. So I wouldn't worry about it too much if you are a Pedro Acosta fan, and let's be honest, we're all Pedro Acosta fans, so I'm sure you will very much agree with that comment. Now, regarding the Aprilias this weekend, bit of a mixed bag for me because I actually expected Maverick to do a little bit more. I think I'm guilty of this. I think since I've seen him do so well in COTA, I was thinking new Maverick, turn over a new leaf, he's going to be racing and podiums, wins every single weekend. Now, that didn't happen, but he was well up there. And towards the latter stage of the race, both him and Bastianini weren't that far off after all the carnage and battling ensued at the front. So I did expect more from the Aprilias, and to be honest, I was very well impressed with Aleix Espargaro. Not everyone's favourite rider, of course, but I thought he did really well this week on that Aprilia RSGP. Of course, a little bit of a confusion and a bit of a disagreement with Enea Bastianini going into turn 10, that move going in there. It did look like Bastianini wasn't ready to commit to that overtake, but once he gets sucked in and the bike just doesn't want to move and it's locked in place, it's desperate to keep hold of that slipstream, it gets very difficult for the riders to stop the bike. So I think for him, he just had to go full send, and he did. Aleix Espargaro obviously clearly not happy at all, and he also wasn't happy with a certain Franco Morbidelli in the latter stage of the race. I didn't see this live, I seen this on Instagram recently, where Morbidelli went up in the inside, basically picking up Aleix Espargaro mid-corner. And I know you're going to be surprised at this, but Aleix Espargaro wasn't happy. I know what you're thinking. Yeah, Aleix Espargaro mad? I kid you not. He was disappointed at the overtake from Franco Morbidelli. So, yeah, that was my thoughts on the Aprilias. I really expected them to both be well up there. The track is one of those circuits that does help to have a very stable motorcycle, a bike that is very comfortable to ride, and of course the RSGP with that brilliant aero package. I honestly thought they'd be right up there. I really did. I expected way more from Brad Binder as well, and Jack Miller. In fact, just the KTMs in general. Augusto Fernandez last season, every single race was overtaking riders, and I think he acquired the most overtakes of any rider last season. And yet this season, it's completely different. We're not seeing Augusto Fernandez anywhere near the points almost. And if he is in the points, it's simply because the other riders crashed out in front of him. So I need to see more from Augusto Fernandez, and I really hope we do, because we know how cutthroat MotoGP is. Remy Gardner did a season, didn't even get a chance to improve or to show his worth. And yet we still have Raul Fernandez, who wasn't as good as Remy. So I don't really know. It's such a difficult position to be in for Augusto, especially when your teammate, Pedro Acosta, is loving life and everyone can't stop talking about him. He's got to book up his ideas, and I think all of the KTMs need to. You need to see better from Jack Miller, you need to see better from Brad Binder. I'll give Brad Binder a bit of a credit because, of course, he is still suffering with that broken bone in his foot, but I still expected more. He did well, actually, to get himself up into the points, but even then, there was a lot of crashes. Some gifted positions in there, but some stellar riding as well. It's not what I expected to see from the KTMs, it really isn't. I mean, you've got to look at the bikes in MotoGP, you've got to look at the Ducatis. GP24, best bike in the world, marginally behind is GP23. Behind that is the Aprilia, and then I would probably say much further behind now is KTM than what it was. It's the heroics of Acosta that is putting the RC16 and the Piera Mobility groups in anywhere in the top 5. He's doing the business. So I don't know what's happening with the KTMs, but we need to see improvements. We really do, because if you said to me at the start of this year that Brad Binder would be outclassed by Acosta, I wouldn't have believed you. I wouldn't even believe Acosta would have done better than Miller, to be honest with you. I know Acosta had a lot of hype going in, but I wasn't prepared to agree with it until I seen it. So I don't really know about that one, but my thoughts and process with that is they've got to sort it out. One thing I do want to mention is I've been my memory's been refreshed there, is I'm really pleased to see Fabio Di Giannantonio back at the sharp end, battling it out with some of the riders like Marc Marquez. That was great to see. And what I appreciate about Di Giannantonio is that when you race a rider as aggressive as Marquez, you have to be aggressive back. I'll go back to the Moto2 scenario. Joe Roberts got bullied in Recordamon in turn 13 and then 14 for Recordamon numerous times. By Alonso Lopez, by Ayagora, and then in the last couple of laps he went, I get it. You want to race aggressive? I'll race aggressive back. And that's exactly what Joe Roberts did. And I think when you have a rider like Marquez who does it to you, you have to give it back. And I was pleased to see Di Giannantonio giving it back to Marquez and racing on the edge, on the limit. It makes for way better racing. It's a little bit on the limit. Of course, it can be a bit scary sometimes, resulting crashes, etc. But it's the best way to ride and it's the most entertaining. So I appreciate both Di Giannantonio and Marquez for putting a brief show during the Grand Prix. Now, I strongly felt that both of the VR46 Ducatis would take the experience of a decent result in Jerez. Of course, Marco Bezzecchi was fantastic in Jerez, and I really expected him to be living that momentum here in the French GP, and it did not materialise. There's been a lot of disappointments this weekend, to be honest with you. A lot of crashes. I think Miguel Oliveira still not really done much on the RSGP, which I'm still shocked at. He started incredibly well last season. Until Marquez hit him in turn 3 for Lagos in Portimao, it looked like he was a regular contender then for the racing. I know he always does well at Portimao, but until that moment, I have not seen Miguel Oliveira at his best at the sharp end of MotoGP. And I think that's got to change. As I said earlier, with the amount... a bit wide there actually for turn 13. Now is into Recordamont. But as I said earlier on, it's a cutthroat business, and if you're not going to get the results, they'll get replaced. Simple as. There's a lot of good riders now in Moto2. I know that Joe Roberts is keen on opening up to MotoGP. I know, of course, the Trackhouse Racing team would do anything to get an American on it. Doesn't even matter who the American is at this point, I don't think. I think they just want an American to join the team, as Pedro Costa's just gone down. I think Joe Roberts should be a shoo-in if he continues to race like he has been. I must confess, I thought it would be a little bit of a fluke. He did well in Austin. Of course he did. That was expected. But then, of course, backing it up in Jerez and backing it up in Le Mans, I've got to say, fair play, Joe, fair play. He's doing a stellar job, and might not be the biggest Joe Roberts fan in the world, but you have to appreciate what him and the American racing team have done so far this season. I know John Hopkins was always saying that Joe Roberts was in everybody's head, and they were all concerned about Joe Roberts because they all thought he'd be the man to beat a few years ago. That didn't happen, but yeah, he's certainly proving that he is worth a ride in MotoGP as of yet. And the one person I would say hasn't done is Fermin Aldeguer. I really expected him to be dominating every race. Same as Tiger Tony. Same as Jake Dixon. Dixon's not even in the points yet. But that's for another day. I don't think I can bother to discuss about that just yet. I think there's a lot of negative comments directed towards Jake Dixon. I think he's in a rut. So I'm not going to add to that by saying I'm disappointed. But yeah, anyway, moving on. Still got quite a lot to cover here. Look with a quick brief glance at my notes. Fabio Quartararo's incredible Yamaha livery didn't last very long, did it? Unfortunately, I think... and that sounded harsh, but that's not what I meant. I'm just saying I was disappointed. I was really pleased to see Fabio back up there into the top 6. That is exactly where Fabio should be, and that's exactly where I want the Yamahas to be. But unfortunately for him, crashing out in Shimano buff as well as Marco Bezzecchi did in the sprint. So that was a damn shame for the French fans. Nothing to celebrate too much for them. Johan Zarco didn't have the best of race. It's still an excellent ride though nonetheless. I think Johan Zarco at the moment is proving that he is adapting to that Honda with no issue. Of course the Honda is not great, but he's certainly adapting well to it and pushing it beyond its limits. Joan Mir looked pretty good until I think he went wide for Garage Vert. The commentators didn't pick up on this, but I noticed it when I was watching. He went wide for Garage Vert, and then he had to fight so much back to get into the fight again. I think then, of course, just another tough race for Joan Mir. Another tough race for Luca Marini and all the Hondas as well. The greatest of all time, the GOAT Taka Nakagami, not having a great weekend either. We've got to see more improvements for the Honda, otherwise it's going to be just status quo for the rest of the season. Nil points here in Le Mans for most of the riders through crashing out and not being in the point scoring situation. So I've got to say, this race has gone well so far. I've been able just to sort of churn out the lap times and chin wag to you fine fantastic people. So I hope I've not waffled too much in this one. I do feel like I've tried to balance it with the racing and the chat. But yeah, if it hasn't gone well, I apologise. But just trying to balance it a bit of juggling here in MotoGP 24. I've had to change my seating position a few times as well because it's bloody roasting in Warrington, England right now. I hate this kind of weather. I much prefer the colder and the damp to this glorious sunshine. It's not comfortable for me. I don't like this sort of weather. But yeah, let me know what you think about the weekend of Le Mans. Was it the best race of the season? Personally, for me, it was great. But there wasn't all that many overtakes towards the latter stage, so I would have liked to see a bit more. But that's just me being a greedy fan. But it was still a very good race, and I think the fans have a lot to cheer for. The fact that Pecco Bagnaia was beaten by Marquez for the first time, the fact that Jorge Martin didn't bow down to Pecco either. I think Pecco took a bit of a gut punch this weekend, I really do. I think when he took the lead and looked pretty much unbeatable, that I thought, well, that's Pecco back to his normal self again. Bad sprint, bad weekend so far. I'll turn up Sunday and I'll dominate. I honestly expected that to happen. So to see Martin not only catch him and pass him, certainly caught me off guard, and it certainly added to the surprise. We had some good chats in the DrAce Discord server about the race at the weekend. If you want to chat whilst we're watching the MotoGP races live, you can do so by joining the Discord server as well. We have all sorts of fans, from passionate, lifelong fanatics to newcomers of the sport. So everyone is invited and everyone is allowed to get involved with our DrAce Discord server. Now, I've actually found a bit of pace here towards the latter stage. I managed to get into the 1 minute 29 twos. I don't know how long I can sustain that, but if we can get into the 128s, that would be that little bit better. So let's see what we can produce onto the brakes then. Going into the Parts Europe sign. That's a bit tight, that almost abused the track limits. Oh, did I did touch track limits. Where are we now on the penalty situation? Oh, that's not good. Oh, okay, pressure is going to be surmounting there, isn't it? I tell you what, Pecco has not left me alone once this race, has he? I had a very brief moment where I was about 1.5 seconds, but I think that's only because he took the long lap penalty. We're going to have to go through this now for another 5 laps against the MotoGP World Champion. I don't think this is going to be easy. Adaptive AI could certainly have him battling towards the latter stages. We could be getting a result which would be the reverse of the modern day MotoGP race here in France. Oh my god, have you seen the gap? I did not see that. I've been too busy chatting to you, but look at that gap. To put it into context, Enea Bastianini is now going into this Dunlop chicane. That's turn 4. We're now in Musée for turn 7. We are miles ahead of the competition right now. And traditionally and perfectly, it is the 2 best riders in MotoGP today, Jorge Martin, Pecco Bagnaia. Absolutely superb. 8.5 tenths of a second is the gap towards to Bagnaia. I can't even begin to work out what that gap is to Enea Bastianini. And he, in turn, is ahead of Marquez by quite a bit. Maverick Vinales in there as well. There's going to be fireworks in this one, I think. I think Pecco is catching up to me. Where are we now? 4 tenths of a second is the difference. Yeah, we're going to have to be on our A game here. I must confess, though, this feels fantastic. Le Mans feels really, really good around this in this computer game. Every time I jump on MotoGP 24, I am having a great time. Another great experience, another fun video for me to make. Hi, thank you, MotoGP 24. Onto the brakes then for turn 3. Keep it in tight. Quick tight change direction for turn 4 as well. Gap is 0.2 of a second to the Delta. Takaki Nakagami's been given another warning. He'll have to be careful. Just caught on the glimpse of the graphic on the left-hand side. Alex Rins is now out as well. And I've seen Jack Miller's long lap penalty a ridiculous amount of times in this race. Probably around 20 times I've seen that the number 43 has a long lap penalty. Why did he never take it? He just didn't fancy it, did he? Clearly. So into garage there. We'll get on to the power. Alex Marquez has been dished a long lap penalty. Behind him is Aleix Espargaro, who also has the LLP. Marco Bezzecchi, track limits warning for him. Quartararo, Zarco, goodness me, everyone's doing it now, aren't they? But look at that gap. That gap is coming down. Oh, Luca Marini's been given a long lap penalty. It's all going Pete Tong for the Hondas, isn't it? 8 riders in the top 8, and that 8th spot is acquired by teammate Franco Morbidelli. I cannot wait for the day when this Ducati dilemma comes to its conclusion. Jorge Martin, Marc Marquez, and Enea Bastianini, all top candidates for the factory Ducati seat, and then rises to sign the contract is Franco Morbidelli. That would be excellent. I like Franco. I think he's absolutely fantastic. He's a brilliant rider who just needs a bit of time to adjust to the GP24. So why not let it fly, put him on the GP25, and give him a factory Ducati seat next year. And I tell you what, if Pramac re-sign Frankie and they then go back to Yamaha hardware, I would be very disappointed if I was Frankie. I really would. Unless Pramac's going to have more rights to the Monster Energy Yamaha team, which I very much doubt, I think Franco's going to have another couple of years of pain. Surely at that point he would have found another Ducati seat, but we'll see for the future. Of course, rule changes come in 2027, so everything gets shaken up again. Looking forward to seeing what happens there. I know there's been a lot of speculation and a lot of doubt and concern expressed for the reduction of engine size from the 1000 cc's to the 850s, I think they were. I am also equally as skeptical. Back in the 800cc days, Stoner on the Ducati was miles quicker than the rest of the bikes. And the Ducati are already at the top of the pile with 1000 cc's. How is it going to fare with the 850cc's? Hey, is this a new lap time? It is. A 129, 185 on lap 25. That could be the crucial blow. Similar to Martin in real life. He didn't let Pecco Bagnaia push him to the very end. He decided, you know what? I've got this. I'll keep on churning out the lap time. Martin was impervious in those last few laps. Oh! Steady. Hit the brake a little bit too hard. Bike went sideways. Never an ideal situation. So into the left-hand side. Hard on the brakes we go. Into the museum corner. Turn 7. Musée. That gap has come down to 0.9 of a second. This is not over. Or is it? Gap's back to a second. Ooh, steady. I'm getting a bit nervous now. Heart is beginning to pound a bit. I'm getting that old bouncy knee again. That's when you know things are tense. Aleix Espargaro track limit warning. Didn't he have a long lap penalty earlier? Him and Alex Marquez. Everything is not peachy right now for them. Quartararo's got a track limit warning now. Augusto Fernandez, Luca Marini with the track limit warnings. Can everyone just pack it in? It's hard to concentrate on the race here. We lost 5.5 of a second. The gap is down to... Oh, it was definitely down to 0.6, and there it is again. It's very misleading around this circuit, this Bugatti circuit here in Le Mans. Once more into the right-hand side, and we'll do this one more time to take victory across the line. We dropped into the 130s. How do you go from doing that to that? I lost a second on that lap. No, not good at all. I thought we'd done it. I thought we'd broken the shackles of the world champion. Clearly not yet. Beautiful tight apex there for turn 3. Now into turn 5. Clean as you like for Jorge Martin. Love the camera angles you get from this corner here. Diving into La Chapelle. Bike squirming. You've seen how Marco Bezzecchi went down after all. And here we go. 0.7 of a second. It's game on here in the Bugatti circuit. Ooh, we've run it a bit deep for turn 7. The factory Ducati powers on. The GP24 keep it in track limit. I cannot afford to make another additional track limit. If I exceed track limits just once, it's a long lap penalty, and it's good night Vienna for our chances of victory. Here in, and say it with me, hashtag French GP. On the brakes we go then for the final time of asking into Shimano Buff. Is Marquez going to lunge from 8 bike lengths back? And I did say Marquez because I'm joking with you, but did Pecco Bagnaia fancy a long lap? No, did he fancy a lunge? Long lap penalty for Zarco caught me off guard there. That gap is coming down. It's down to 4/10. Surely Pecco cannot attack from here. Small wheelie, breaking into the right hand of a turn 13. Keep it in tight, ladies and gentlemen, and we will be victorious. 27 laps of Le Mans completed with the victory. Oh my god, look at that gap. 4/10 clear from Pecco, 25 clear from Enea, and 32 seconds, almost 33, ahead of the Aprilia duo. So guys, thanks for watching the video. Thanks for tuning in, and hopefully you stayed this long. If you did, thank you very much. I'm eternally grateful. But upon that note, I will see you in the next video. Don't forget to let me know your comments about the video in the comment section, and don't forget to like and subscribe as well. Ciao for now. Oh hi, didn't quite see you there. Good to see you're still here. If this video didn't quite sate your appetite, then why not watch some more DrAce content by clicking the video shown on screen now. Furthermore, if you would like to follow me on social media, you can do so now with the links down in the description. Consider subscribing so you don't miss a single DrAce video.